It honestly shocks me that in December of this year, this movie will officially be now 15 years old. People, I was 9 when this movie came out. I'm not joking. 9 years old. Not 19, 9. I am now 24 years old. Oh my god. Tron-Legacy is directed by Joseph Kosinski with a screenplay by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz and a story by Edward Kitsis, Adam Horowitz, Brian Klugman, and Lee Sternthal. The film stars Jeff Bridges, Garrett Hedlund, Olivia Wilde, Bruce Boxleitner, and Michael Sheen. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, the son of a computer programmer goes looking for his father and ends up inside the digital world that his father designed. He meets his father's corrupted creation and a unique ally who was born inside the digital world. In the many years since Tron came out in 1982, of course, Tron has lived on as that cult film that helped pioneer visual effects in the film industry. To this day, people still think of how much that film really helped push the visual effects landscape with integrating things with a story and continuing on to showcase that in the many years since with many films. And sure, people can mostly talk about the bigger movies themselves, but I feel like Tron should have some recognition with regards to how much it did push the narrative. It did push the way in which how much we can use visual effects to help tell a story. Now, 28 years later, Disney sought out to make a sequel to the original 82 film, but with upgrade to visuals. Because let's face it, a lot of people can take a look at that 82 movie, myself included. If you saw my review, you know that, well, the visual effects have not aged all that amazingly, and some would say it's aged like milk. But nevertheless, Disney just saw out this because I bet you they're like, well, what do we got in the vault? Not a lot of stuff. Oh wait, Tron? That was a minus success. Oh, let's make a sequel to this. Regardless, I remember seeing this film when it came out 15 years ago. I must reiterate that because that was 2010, people. This is 2025. What the hell? I mean, seriously, I'm just still blown away by the fact that that is how long ago it was. And I remember enjoying it for what it was, but albeit I will not disagree, I was a little confused by it at times. Then again, 9 years old, what do I know? Now, 15 years later, I still found it to be as entertaining as it was. Although, I will say, as much as people my age grew up with this movie, the movie has flaws that I do think are prevalent in this movie. And even though you can say that, oh, well, Zach, I mean, come on. I mean, who would care about those things? I kind of do, especially if you're gonna put this side by side with the original. I mean, you got to, okay? But before addressing my problems, here are the positives that I found. The performances are exceptional, the cast, but mainly Bridges and Sheen bring their effort, making the experience enjoyable. Jeff Bridges just always knows how to have a relaxing but also really fun time on set. He always seems like he gets along with a lot of actors. I don't think this man can ever do anybody wrong with regards to playing a charismatic character like Kevin Flynn. Of course, now he has gotten a little older and a little bit more mature, but still, the fact that this is a man who can still really carry a movie along, keep it engaging as it is, I think he does a really good job in the film with not only playing Kevin Flynn, but also Clue, who is the digital replication of Kevin Flynn. And I will say this real quick. The visual effects, there were times, at least on Clue, where it can look good, but there were other times where that looks super smooth, like PS3, PS4 graphics, 3 years before the PS4 or even the Xbox One was a thing, but still, there were times where it looked fine, and then other times it was just super shiny and clean that it was a little distracting to see, but I still give it props, not just that, but also Jeff Bridges for providing as much as he can. Garrett Hedlund's fine. He's enjoyable, although I will say in the beginning it was a little rough because, especially when he enters the digital world, I do think that the man should be a little bit more confused and really scared, but he seems to be relaxed about everything. But as the movie goes along, he interacts with his on screen father. I think that's what works, helps the movie out. Olivia Wilde's fine as Cora. I don't think she's terrible in any way. I think she helps the film out, but I do think that really think she was given all that much to it. But Michael Sheen, boy howdy, you want to talk about a guy who's having the time of his life. I mean, he is just going all for it, and I am loving it. He seems like he was just chewing the scenery every time he was there, and it was just awesome. But everyone in the cast, I think, does a pretty decent job, even though Bruce Boxleitner, he's not given much this time around compared to like the first movie. He's enjoyable for the few scenes that he was in. The direction is surreal. Director Joseph Kosinski brings Tron to the new age while blending new elements to the world of Tron, feeling like an update than a redo. Because whenever it's a movie like this, especially if it's like a soft reboot, but rather a sequel to a film that came out decades ago, it can kind of seem daunting to think that you could ever just do not just a sequel, but just bring in new elements or new ways to integrate into the movie than what the original had done. And I do think that Joseph Krasinski does a good job of bringing in some really cool elements into the film, whether it be updating the light cycles, but there's ships, there's a parallel to our society with the grid and how that's displayed. I think it is really amazing to see how much he was able to implement things that I think could still pay homage to the original without having it feel like it needs to be like a copy and paste of it. It does seem like he really wanted to make sure that this is a little bit more different from the original compared to this, and it is very much a night and day situation where how he presents it all in here is amazing. And while I do appreciate Steven Eichelberger for what he did with the original, I do think that Joseph Krasinski was able to display it all in a beautiful way. The visual effects are incredible. Everything in the digital world, from the light cycles, ships, simulations, and explosions, look astonishing, making the world of the grid feel alive. If there is one aspect of this movie that definitely 100% is an upgrade over the original, it's the visual effects. I will not deny that. I think they are still, even after 15 years, it looks incredible. It is amazing to see how much a lot of care was put into what the original was like, but just bringing in the feeling of how an updated world of the grid would feel like. Ships look amazing, light cycle sequences look incredible, and the assimilations, I think, look stellar and fantastic. And so you do have a film that is dazzling and brimming with a lot of these effects that really do bring everything all together. Like I said, the visual effects for Clue, de-aging Jeff Bridges, there are times where, again, it can look fine, and then other times it does look a little shiny and glossy, but for the most part, everything about this movie looks dazzling. The music is electric. Music duo Daft Punk creates a synthetic and electronic score that fits this new age of Tron, bringing in a new wave of film scoring. Synthwave music isn't like new to films, okay? Like that's always been around for a while, ever since its inception, but Daft Punk, who was a big musical group for a very long time, was tasked with doing the scoring here. And although I appreciate the original scoring of the first film, I won't deny this new score. It's incredible. It fits right into what a lot of people would think when it comes to a sci-fi digital world adventure film like this, because of how much Daft Punk was able to create a score and a styling that feels just like how you would expect a movie like this to be. And the fact that they were able to liven it up with scenes, especially action sequences, I think was incredible. And although they are no longer a group anymore, we can always remember their contributions to the Tron world with this score in particular. And it's amazing. They deserve all the amount of respects, especially people my age, for what they did with this scoring. The cinematography is gorgeous. Cinematographer Claudio Miranda shoots a lively and grand look to the world of the grid, showing the scope and scale of the world. how they were able to display the grid, how it is, of course, a parallel to our world, but just showcasing the visual effects, the grand feeling of this new version of Tron feels and acts is incredible to see how much they are able to capture all those action sequences, but also the downtimes that are in this film. And even though, yes, there is aspect ratio changes, I think they did appropriately use them at the right moments to where whenever there's a big sequence that happens or they want to show the massive scale of this film, they use it to full effect. And then when they want to bring it down to just the normal scaling of it, it works out just fine. And I think that is the best way to use it because they could have done what years later they would do with Transformers The Last Night. That annoyed the hell out of me. But thankfully, they did not do that. They managed to use it wisely in a way that makes it feel effective, and I think Claudio Miranda did an amazing job on that. The production is stunning. The effort to revamp and upscale the look and feel of Tron's digital world is incredible. From the sets, costumes, props, and crew work, it is on full display how much they are able to pull together everything to make it seem like they really wanted to upgrade this world. Because, of course, we all look at the original, and yeah, today it just doesn't age well. Although I still praise the production for the original, we all know that you could tell what is what. Here, they actually really made sure to craft things that are of detailing and also of upgraded feeling. Like the discs themselves, they're no longer looking like frisbees, they are now actual discs. Or the helmets, they are actual, like, built-in helmets. They're not hockey helmets. Still, the innovation between the two projects looks amazing, but again, is cool to see how much all that effort that was put into this movie with regards to those sets and costumes are incredible to see. The action is thrilling. Every action sequence shows the visual effect to good use, blending it all together. It never felt like it was just a mishmash of just visual effects galore and that was it. They actually felt like they were able to blend in us, the humans, and the stuff that they use in the digital world pretty well, making sure that it all felt natural and never felt like it was never out of place in any way. It felt right. Enjoyable, but one that does have some issues that I did notice with this movie. And if somebody were to ask me, though, which one I would still give the leg up to, it would still probably be the original in this way, but still, here are now the negatives. The pacing and runtime is drawn out. The beginning starts up pretty fast and actually gets the plot going, but once they get to the digital world, they slow that down. And as much as I get it, they want to showcase the grid, what Kevin Flynn has built, and that's amazing, that's incredible. That being said, the fact that they just really stretched this movie out is kind of insane to me. With a runtime of 2 hours and 5 minutes, it just didn't need to be that long. I don't think this movie needed to get away with being this 2 hour and 5 minute epic when I think they could have knocked it down to probably like an hour and 45, hour 50, maybe close to 2 hours, but really, like, just below it. I don't think this needed to be any longer than what it was, because honestly, it just, by the time the halfway mark happens, I just can really feel that pacing and the drawn out feeling of it. The story is underwhelming. While there were some good ideas in here, it just ultimately just doesn't shine more, feeling more style than substance. I think this is the biggest problem that I would say is with Tron is its story. I'm not saying that there isn't good ideas in here, and while I don't mind the whole son looking for his father, it just kind of loses itself in the shuffle because then it becomes style over substance. What do most people usually think of when it comes to this movie immediately? People are going to just think, oh, the visual effects, oh, the music, the production, the cinematography, which you heard me say that. But notice how casual audiences would say those things, and I would then ask them, okay, what do you think of the story? I guess it's fine. That's my problem, is that this story feels more like it sets up things, and then once it's set up, it's almost like the visual effects just then take over. And I think while that is impressive, you need to have a story that also can hold its own without having to rely so much on just feeling like, just look at the pretty visual effects. Look at how amazing it is. Say what you will about the first movie, I give credit to that film in that there was a good portion of that film, and it's a shorter runtime, but they were able to get the message across they were able to set something up with Kevin Flynn in the beginning, and while it is in the digital world, they still had this idea throughout of what the master computer wanted and what they were doing, and that was prevalent. Whereas this, the visual effects and the music and the production of it got more of the attention, because when it came to the story, once it got into the grid, they just felt like they needed to pad it out so that way they could just showcase how amazingly beautiful it looks. The writing is lackluster. Writers Kitsis and Horowitz pens a script that's kind of predictable and generic. Stuff you've heard like so many times in films. The kind of things characters would say to one another. It's kind of very obvious or super cheesy in that way, but not in a way where it feels right. It feels more like a, oh, like, okay, thanks for the obvious saying, but I just don't think that the writing is super strong enough. And while I do think that, yes, original's writing also can be very corny and very cheesy, I feel like that was the charm of it. Whereas this, it just kind of felt like it was trying to replicate it, but not in a way where it felt natural. It just kind of felt like they wanted to just recapture whatever the original tried to do, and it just doesn't work. And I just, again, feel like they just spout the same kind of stuff you've heard a dozen times in films. Though flawed, it was a good time. I will not deny that. To have a sequel to a cult classic, it did its best to be as enjoyable as it can. There are some really amazing sequences in this movie that I think will still be remembered for a lot of reasons, but really, again, the visuals and the music are going to be the thing that everyone talks about for years to come. If for nothing else, it looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous even after 15 years. I still think this movie looks dazzling. I think it looks amazing to see how much they were able to bring the world of Tron to life, but upscale it, make it a little bit more beautiful, and there you go. You got a movie that, while it will be remembered for its visuals, I do think, though, unfortunately, its story is just kind of lost in the shuffle, and that's the sad part about it, is that I do think that there is something in here that can work. I just think that it just didn't get enough attention compared to the other stuff. I'm gonna give Tron-Legacy a 7 out of 10. It's enjoyable, it's fine, it's good for what it is. If you ask me, I still prefer the first movie, even though it's the same grading. I would give the edge to the first movie in how much that was able to still convey a story that I thought was interesting and was able to convey its messaging from the beginning. And while it was in the digital world for a good majority of the movie, it was able to keep that messaging across. Whereas here, it just kind of felt like by the time they got to the story and had some ideas, it just kind of felt like they relied on so much of the visual effects to just kind of help them along without having to feel like they need to have the story feel right for the visual effects to kind of enhance the nature of the film. Soon I will be reviewing Now You See Me, and then soon Now You See Me Too. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other reviews coming soon.